Well, welcome to the Podcast Editors Mastermind. You can find us and subscribe to the show at podcasteditorsmastermind.com. If you're joining us on Facebook, we would love to have your comments and your questions in the chat. And if you're not already part of the Facebook group, you could connect with us there. There'll be a link for you in the episode notes. Now, as a podcast editor, you're probably not just an editor. You're also a business owner. And so you're responsible for more than just turning in edits. You're also responsible for leading your business, even if it's just you. And that means vision, purpose for what you're doing, a solid plan. That's the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. But before we get into that, we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Brian. You can find me at toptieraudio.com.
I'm Carrie Caulfield Eric. You can find me at yayapodcasting.com. And I have a new line of podcast editor t-shirts that you can find at the link you see on your screen.
Pimp the gear.
Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Longworth. You can find me at bourbonbarrelpodcasting.com or on social media at KY Podcasting.
And our guest today is none other than Michael Jerry. He's a graduate of the Podcast Engineering School. And when you think about podcast production, he pretty much offers it all. Show planning, launch consultation, remote and on-site recording and engineering, full post-production, all of that kind of stuff and more. You can find him at MiTi Productions. That's MITI, the number 5 and productions.com. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And don't worry about calling using my last name first. Like I have that from kindergarten through all of my education. Everybody always called me Jerry Michael.
Are you serious? I had no idea. Well, it's truly a pleasure to have you on here. We've been waiting for this for a while. We've been talking about trying to get you on. So we're super happy to have you here. And you had some stuff that you wanted to talk about, some things that you wanted to dig into. But before
before we
went
on.
So behind the scenes in the green room, we were chatting and Michael said that he had a recent revelation. And so Michael, is now a good time for you to share with us what you know today that you didn't know yesterday?
Well, yeah, I was going to actually weave that into the conversation, but
okay.
I was thinking about, podcast engineering school and how did I even come to find out about podcast engineering school? And then, the more I thought about it, the path sort of started with Hindenburg, because as you remember, like during that period, I was sort of trying to find a DAW, like what one resonates with me the most, which one can I just sort of grab onto? And when I was doing research for Hindenburg, I actually came across your name, and then you led me to Chris Kern via the episode that the two of you did.
Oh, wow.
On his show. And that's how I was introduced to Podcast Engineering School. And subsequently, so you're an integral part of my journey without even knowing about it.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible. I honestly had no idea that had happened. I just met you and I'm like, this is a great guy. I want to know this guy better. So that's how it worked for me. Now, as we think about your production business, you've got some questions that we're going to get to. But first, can you maybe just share a little bit with us about what it is that you do, where you are in your business, how this is working for you so far?
Yeah. So as far on the business side, as you mentioned, I went to podcast engineering school, and that was September of 2019. And after that, the course Chris really fires you up.
Yeah.
He's got a really good energy and knowledge about audio engineering and a true passion for wanting to help people. And so, it was starting a business has been something that was on my mind for quite some time. And even my journey into podcasting was one that I really wasn't prepared for. But that's kind of another interesting story, how that all started. And so after completing podcast engineering school, then, I just took the necessary steps to start my business, and also, just sort of patterning myself after Chris Curran, wanting to focus more so with the businesses, the larger businesses, which is where a lot of my focus is, and getting those clients. But in the interim, there's still a lot of work to be garnered just from the average person who wants to have a podcast launched or edited or whatever. And so that's kind of where I'm at today.
You mentioned that you're focused on the larger businesses. That's not something that I've focused on a whole lot. And so I'm wondering, when you think about your marketing, your branding, your approach to those businesses, how do you approach those businesses?
It takes me back to my days I used to sell copiers. I first got into sales.
Nice.
This was back in the early 90s, right? And so I had a territory in the middle of DC, a lot of embassies and major corporations. And so I'm kind of comfortable with talking to decision makers and business owners. And so it's sort of taken me back to those roots of my early days of sales and approaching businesses, and really just presenting. I try to gather as much information as I can first, because I don't want to just, vomit information and not know exactly what it is that would be helpful to them, right? So first I need to gather as much information as possible and do a little digging on the company itself and that sort of thing. But that's my approach with businesses. I feel like, as we all do, right, there are a lot of benefits for having your own podcast, especially if you are a business in the world that we live in. It gives you an opportunity to, have your voice and showcase, your talents and your experience and your wisdom and all the things that you bring to the business world. So, and plus you can, market your own stuff. And I mean, there's just so many things that you can do with your own podcast.
So in terms of working with businesses, do you go out and actively seek them, or do they come to you? Like
right now, I'm the pursuee. I'm on the hunt.
Okay, you were on the prowl.
Right.
No, that's great. That's great. And what do you think their general knowledge of podcasting is? Are they do they get it? Do they get the value, or is that something you got to continually define for them?
There is an awareness, but not really an understanding of, the details of what goes into podcasting. There's a lot of curiosity about it, especially not only what is podcasting, but how does podcasting help in terms of profitability and, the corporate mentality, right, is dollars first. And so sometimes you just have to circumvent the conversation of money and focus on value. Mm-hmm. And then, we can come back to, because just you have to create value first before you can talk dollars and cents. So that's, my approach with it.
That's good. Value before dollars and cents. That's a really good one. One of the things I'm wondering is, like, if I think about a larger company, say a multi-billion-dollar company, they probably have an entire team that could do something like this. There are probably some in that $1 million to maybe $50 million a year that maybe they don't have a team that does this kind of thing, but maybe they also don't see the value. Do you find yourself having to go in and pitch not only the idea of a podcast, but also what they might do with a podcast in terms of content and things?
Now, just to be clear, I haven't been fortunate enough to talk to the big boys. We're talking, like you say,
me either.
Million.
Yeah.
But my approach would be, let's see what resources are available. How do they want to approach it? I mean, I have, as you mentioned in my introduction, I have a lot of equipment that I can bring to the set or to however we're going to do this. But if they want to bring me on as a consultant, I'm willing to do that as well too. So I'm very open-minded with that and flexible. But as long as they're willing to have an open dialogue about it, then I'm game.
Nice. Jennifer, I feel like I've kind of been driving the conversation. I want to give you some.
I'm listening. I'm taking it in, man.
Okay.
I'm like, well, pitching businesses is something that I've considered and said I've wanted to do, but just have been not doing. So I'm like, well, Chris was on here. He talked a little bit about that. And Michael's here now talking a little bit about that. And then reminding me that, oh, yeah, I was going to do that. Maybe I should do that. And then I went out and got a day job instead. So that's unfortunate. But maybe I need to circle back around. So just kind of listening. And it's easy for me to tell people, well, a podcast is going to level you up in your industry because now you're not just a realtor, you're a realtor with a podcast or whatever industry you happen to be in. I just work with a couple of realtors, so that was the easiest one. But beyond just leveling up and getting your name out there, are there any other like features and benefits of having a podcast that you like to present to people?
Well, there's a lot, but I think in the few conversations that I've had, I haven't, had like tons and tons of dialogue with different businesses. But, I think one of the main things that I do in my gathering of information is try and get a direction of what it is that the business wants to accomplish. And once you have that kind of idea, then you can just sort of run with it as far as, what it is. Like you can get a scope of what they're trying to accomplish once you have some ideas of what the business is about and the direction that they want to go in. And so that's kind of my approach with it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, do your homework first, basically.
Yeah.
So you mentioned talking to clients. Are you aware that Chris also has a challenge coming up for new clients and also are you going to be doing that?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Well, you know what? We've done that before. He had, this is several months ago where he's done something like that and I participated in it. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. Chris always has some really good stuff.
Yeah. I will try to find the link to that. I don't want to go digging for it right now, but I'll try and find the link to that so we can share that because that's something I'm planning to do as well. Last time I committed to do it, but it was right after what was it, November, the 31 days of podcasting in November or something like that, because it's only 30 days. And I was burnt out, so I didn't do it. But I'm hopeful because I could use another client or two myself, right? So that'd be a good one. You mentioned that you go in and you've selected the businesses that you want to work with. My assumption is that comes from some kind of vision for what you want business to be. Is that the case?
Well, man, there's so much on that plate when you talk about vision, at least in my mind.
Maybe we should step back and just talk about what does vision mean to you first?
Vision for me is vision, like the sight is what you see with your eyes, but vision is what you see in your mind, right? No one can see your vision except you. And working towards that vision is kind of the challenge, right? Because it's all in your head. Mm-hmm. So the vision is what you see in your mind. Sight is what you see with your eyes.
I like that.
So I'm gonna challenge you for a second.
Okay.
One of the things that I do for my business is I actually create a vision statement, right? And it goes along with the mission statement. So the mission is kind of what you do every day, I think, or what your work, what your goal is. But a vision statement for me is like the impact of that goal. If mission is accomplished, then what's going to happen? What's that impact going to be? And I think really thinking about your vision is thinking about when you do your job correctly and well, and you accomplish your mission, what is the result?
When you accomplish it, what is the result?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, hypothetical, like, you don't have to answer. Obviously, you don't have to answer right.
Well,
but I'm just saying that's a challenge for you to think about when your business is successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're serving your clients and they're getting results and you're getting results, obviously, then what is the impact of all that? Not just on yourself and not just on your clients, but on the world at large.
That brings up an interesting point. I had written something down that, let's see here. Oh, man, I must have written it somewhere else. But I don't know, what you just said reminded me of how a vision can tie into, one's purpose. And so, right now we're getting into knowing yourself.
and that is a part. So the way I was taught to create these things, the mission and vision, was to start with the values, right? So what are at your core, like, what are your values? Who are you? What drives you? What moves you? What do you want? Right. And it's not an easy exercise to do. And it took me months just of actively working on it every day to kind of figure that out. And it's a constant reevaluation of that as well. I mean, because I feel like as I've been doing this business for a while now, I feel like my vision, my mission, my purpose has changed over the course of time. And that's why I'm doing the Stony Brook Podcast Fellowship, because I want to see what I could accomplish, what's out there, like what do I want to do next, right? Because I don't like to do one thing for an incredibly long time.
Relatable.
Yeah. So
yeah, I understand that.
So, but yeah, I think who are you? What are your values? That's important and kind of real, like figuring out what your vision is gonna be. And I think kind of it's almost like that, working the values and the vision first, and then attacking the mission. Really, because that's how you're gonna get those pieces. So
yeah, one thing that stuck with me, I heard someone say, don't seek success, seek value, and the success will come. And that kind of stuck with me, and I believe that that's one of the things, as you were mentioning, that I just sort of incorporated into my belief system and my values and character. Because I do believe that if you bring value, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah.
Now Steve Stewart would push back on the word value.
Yeah, he would.
Just
Why?
like devil's advocate here, because what is value and who defines it? Because he has a point when he says that it's an overused word, and it's a word we often define for ourselves and then project onto other people. And I'm paraphrasing. Sorry, Steve. So what does that value mean to you? And what is that going to mean to the person like you're trying to deliver it to
okay. All right. So if, let's say that, Carrie, you were the decision maker, okay, at the business that I'm proposing
role
in the
playing
podcast, then my way of determining value is through listening. Right. I have to, like, value for you at, Carrie Productions is not going to be the same value that Jennifer Productions has, right? It's specific to that particular group or entity. And so in my, one-on-one discussions with you, I have to listen to find out, okay, what are we trying to create here together? What direction, does Carrie want to go in? What things are important to her? And from that, then I can extract, okay, these are the things that are important, and those things that are important are what create value. And that's what I have to bring to the table, help, extract that and then present it to you. So that would be my answer to that. It's not going to be the same for everyone.
I think that's a great approach, though, to value, because then that takes then the person who you're trying to give value to is really the one who's defining it. Yeah. And that takes away that kind of like overused meaninglessness of it.
Yeah.
I mean, as Steve would argue, and I'm just being devil's advocate. So,
well, and I think the point is well taken, right? The vision is just part of the overall plan, right? And I think that's something that you're working on right now, Michael. I almost called you Jerry again. Something you're working on right now with the question of, okay, I've got all of these things that I want to do, all these different pieces. How do they all fit together? And I was wondering if you might like to talk a little bit about where your plan is right now, like how all the pieces are fitting together, and maybe if there are any gaps or questions that you have that as you're trying to piece it all together.
Well, for me, well, one of the things that Carrie mentioned is that if things changed for her, like her vision changed, and I see that happening with me. Excuse me. My vision of work or how I interpret work has changed. I was in corporate America for decades, and I'm not a corporate America person. I just don't fit the mold. I like to do what I like to do my way. And so when, I'm working in sales and they're changing my compensation plan because I'm making too much money, right? I'm making more than the manager, which happens often, right? Then they change it. So now I have to work harder just to make the same amount of money. And now I have to do things differently to make money. And so I said, okay, this is enough. Like I had to at some point take myself out of corporate America and then reevaluate what work is for me. So now work is, doing something that I enjoy and on my own terms. Yeah, I don't want to work 40 hours a week sometimes, and I don't. I like to work to enhance life. And I don't know if this maybe sounds kind of millennial, but, the things that are important to me really don't center around the 40 to 60 hour work week. So me reevaluating work is working enough to do the things that are enjoyable for me and my family. And if it's, spending, 3 months living out of an RV traveling, that's what I want to work towards. I want to reach that goal. And once I have that money, then let's go do it and let's have fun. Not work 365 days so that I can take a 2-week vacation.
Yeah.
So, that's where I am. And that's, where things have changed for me. And I'm really trying to work towards that. I see that, people nowadays are living life differently. And I hope this really isn't, kind of podcasty, but, but I'm trying to answer your question, Brian.
You're doing fine.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at. My outlook of what work means to me has changed.
So how are you designing your business to reach that goal?
Well, that's what you guys are going to figure out for me.
Alrighty.
Oh no!
No,
See, you don't want us to be the consultants that come in and tell you what to do and then walk away and just say, "Well, our plan would have worked if you would have done it right." No,
right.
that's not. We don't want to do that to you.
No, but no. But I mean, getting you thinking about what that design looks like. I mean, I think that there's a decision that every podcast editor needs to make between, I don't want to, like, pricing and scale, or is that the right way to say that? So, like, I guess boutique, smaller operation, and a larger operation that does volume, basically. Higher prices, lower amount of clients, obviously, you're going to make more money doing a little bit less work. And then, of course, you could be a large agency that doesn't charge all that much. I mean, that's just what I've encountered, I think, in my journey, is having to make that decision. Like, am I going to work with a lot of clients at a lower price and, like, manage large teams to do all the editing? Or am I going to be more, have a smaller team and manage less clients at a higher price? So what is your approach to that? I'm wondering, Michael, like, where do you fall?
Less clients, more money.
Less clients, more money.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money with a lot of clients, but you're at a lower price, but you have to do volume, right? So, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't want to offend
it. That's, sort of my direction of, focusing on businesses, larger, mid to larger businesses. I'm more of a, I have a small circle in my life, and that sort of fits me, right? So if I could have a small set of clients, now we're talking ideally, 5 really clients, maybe 6. But that would be ideal for me. And I just want to focus on, my group. I'm not looking for, 50 to 60 clients. But listen, if life sort of works itself out that way, then I'm not going to shock at it. You know what I'm saying? But ideally, yeah, that's what I like. I like to have, the 4 or 5 clients and mid to larger businesses. And, that's my bread and butter.
Nice.
As you were talking, I was reminded of one of the things that Tanner Campbell shared in the podcast editors group on Facebook. Because I have a tendency to always think of the problem that I'm solving based on the value to me. So I edit your podcast, and the going rate for podcast editing is about this. But his comment was, the value of what you do isn't determined by its value to you. It's determined by the value to the person you're providing the solution for. And a person for whom the same solution is worth more will pay more. So if you think about saving somebody time or producing that show for them, that company or that person that really values that will be willing to pay what it takes to get that done. And it's not taking advantage of them. You have to provide the service. But I think you're on the right path. And this is still mindset work that I'm doing. Like, I'm still serving kind of that low to mid tier client. I'm not serving the $5 on Fiverr group, but I'm also not serving the $500 or $1,000 an episode full production. And I applaud you for going after that. And I keep wanting to find out how you're finding those clients.
Hey, listen, the more information I get, I'm more than happy to share it with you. But, that's what I'm working towards. Is I want the 5 clients that that'll just put me in that sweet spot.
So for these 5 clients, are you doing everything from the, sitting on the call with them, producing their episode, their recording, to just, publishing the podcast? Or is there anything you don't do? Like,
It would, like, my strengths are not with some of the administrative aspects of it. I would do whatever needs to be done, and I know that's kind of a generic answer, but really if they're paying me money that I'm comfortable with, then I'm going to do what needs to be done. Like, that's all part of the process and the dialogue when you sit down and talk with these people to find out, what the vision is for the podcast and with the company. And so, you have those discussions as far as, okay, this is what I'm willing to do. This may be something that I outsource because it's not really a strength of mine. Or I could just say, hey, let me send you to this person because I know that they're really good at this, or developing websites, or like video. That is not a strength for me. So if you want to incorporate video, hey, let me, for example, put you in touch with top tier audio because Brian is excellent with that. That's my approach towards it.
I really just want to highlight again, because I didn't the first time, and I think it's so important, is you talk about asking your clients or your potential clients questions, what they need. And I always approach a client consultation call where, like, if I do too much talking, like, I know that I'm going to lose the sale if I talk too much, because it's really about having them open up and tell you what they need. So it's basically, I'm interviewing them. And I think that is so critical to, like, understanding what they want, what they need, and how you can get, figuring out how to give it to them and charging them well for it. So I just want to highlight that.
One of the things that I had to learn through my sales process is it's okay not to get the deal. Like, just be honest in your conversations and authentic. I can't stress that enough. Don't oversell your soul for the sake of $1. It's just not worth it. And if they say, look, I'm going to go with someone else, like, at least you had that experience. I learned from it. That's how I look at it. But that's, my take on it.
Yeah, good advice.
So one of the things I'm kind of wondering, because you've talked about the planning and the vision, but you're, I think, still somewhat in transition as well. Does that mean that you're juggling multiple things all at the same time?
Yeah. Right. So, there's I still Uber because I like that's kind of like a gold mine of opportunity for, well, the podcast that we were talking about, I think before we started the show, that I have, like, it's such an interesting, well, I like people, I like driving. And so it's just like a gold mine of conversations, having these, dialogue with people from all over the world. And I'm just in one city, but I've met and talked with people from all over the world. And I always joke with people, and I tell them, whenever you pray, if you're the praying type, make sure you're specific. Because, seriously, because, I would always pray like, oh man, I want to meet people from all over the world. He's like, okay, there you are.
Yeah.
In your hometown, in your car. I'm like, wait a minute. The plan was to go traveling and meeting people from all over the world, not driving my little car around the city.
That's awesome.
So be specific in your prayers, please.
So when it comes to all of that, how do you decide what to do when? Because I think there's the day job, if you will. There's working on the business. There's also working in the business. You've got all those hats. How are you prioritizing what gets done?
It's a struggle. It really is. But one of the things that I'm working to do now is just really prioritizing. Like, I have to. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So I bought a planner, a daily planner, and one of the things that I'm forcing myself to do is create new habits. And if I can create new habits, then it'll lead to like a good routine. And so, what was your original question again? Because I lost my train of thought.
How you're choosing what to
how
to work on.
I'm not giving you a good example right now. But so what I do is by creating these habits, I've started writing things down. And so if on Sundays, I'll just sort of go through the week, like what has to be addressed this week. And then on the bigger picture, like on the top of my planner, it'll say like goals for the month. Like, what do I want accomplished this month? And so when I take the overall month and then break it down by week, that's what I've been doing recently to just sort of keep me focused and on track.
That's been a challenge for me as well. I also work full time and I'm building a business. So I'm working on the business and in the business. I've not done a great job with the planner thing. I found that there's a lot of administrative overhead for me, but those habits are critical. And I'm wondering, what are the specific habits that you're focused on right now?
Well, let's see. Get out the planner.
And do you have a particular kind of planner you like to use, just in case people like planners? Or is it just...
Here, look, this I got from Staples.
Okay. I think I know it. I recognize that one. So yeah.
It's just a plain planner, and then it's just lined, just a line. It has like the week. These are the days of the week, and then over on this side, it's just bad mic technique. I'm sorry.
No.
And then the other side, it's just an area for note taking. And
cool.
So, but that's what I do. It's like, this week was kind of preparing for this show, and also the two main priorities were this show, and then working on episodes of the podcast that I want to get launched by October 1. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, I'm just going to show that's literally like my system. I'm holding up my notebook for listeners who can't see, but let me show you the right section.
You have lots of little sticky flags on there, Carrie.
Yeah, so I can always find my page, and different colors mean different things.
Right.
So like my pink is my weekly, and my yellow is course stuff, and my blue is clients. And then my orange and green are kind of money thing, like business and money things. But yeah, I just write the week on top of the page and then make an episode to-do list, like all the things that need to be edited for the week. Who's editing them? Like if my team's editing them, when I'm going to review everything. And then I just have a running to-do list. So I keep it. I don't put goals though, because...
Now, what about the white kitty? What's the white kitty plan there?
Yeah, he's just moral support, right?
Yes, sometimes he makes an appearance in the episode.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
It's a great background. And headrest, I guess, where he's sitting now, right?
Yeah, he's a big cat. A bad mic technique on me, but yeah, he's a nice little pillow. But I don't know where else I was going with that.
Well, I'll just say, jump in here, and there's been discussion recently in the Podcast Editors Club about, your tracking systems. Are you using Airtable? Are you using, that's the only one I can think of right now, Trello, Asana, all these things. But seeing you with the planners, I'm like, well, that's more inclined to what I need to do. But I just have a calendar that I scribble things on when I'm done, and I have pieces of paper laying around. I'm like, that's not good. I think I have a planner around here. So you've inspired me Michael and Carrie to go find my planner and start working it.
Yeah, I would say just what works best for you.
Yeah.
You know, because the Trello and like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not. It's just too much for me right now. But the planner is something that's simple that I can stick with. It, you know, it fits right here in my hand.
Yeah.
So I can carry it with me. And like I said, I break down these habits that I've just started creating into just simple sentences. You know, one sentence is for the month, and then what I want to get done this week. And just keep it that simple.
Yeah.
So if I could, I think I'd like to ask one more question about priorities and time management. And I think it's one that you shared as well. As an editor, sometimes I will find myself 3.5 hours into an edit on a 30-minute show because I just can't get the track to sound the way I want to. Maybe it's a garbage Zoom recording or something like that. How do you decide when you're spending too much time on a track?
Listen, Chris was just helping me with this yesterday. You know, I'm the same way, man. Like sometimes, you know, I'll hear something like, for example, what he was helping me with yesterday. Like he was like, pretty much like, dude, just chill out, relax. Because I kept hearing like the boxiness of this person's voice. And, you know, like once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Yeah.
Right. And it just wouldn't go away. So, you know, one of the things that I've started doing is like I can't remember the person's name, but every hour they just take a break. You know, like I have a sit-stand desk, so I make sure that I'll have it stand up and I'm not sitting. So that's my indication. Okay, let me take a break, take off the headphones, and you know, just 5 minutes, nothing, and then come back to it. But yeah, you've got to realize you have to just, for me, be aware of how I'm spending my time. And it's odd because one thing I did this week, which I had never done, I got out my business cards and I set them on my desk. And for some reason, that helped me focus more because it reminded me, I don't know, subconsciously, it's just like, this is a business that I'm running. I need to focus. That little thing just helped me stay focused this week and make sure that I was managing my time so that if I found myself getting distracted, I said, okay, all right, let's get back on track here. So, you know, I'm not saying everyone should whip out their business cards and throw them on their desk, but, you know, it was just that little bit of a change helped me to just sort of recenter myself.
I like that visual reminder. I have a sticker, my logo on my computer, and I think that really I think you're right. It does remind you that you're doing something seriously. So get off Facebook, right? Don't
call out post.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, guys. Yeah, get off Facebook.
But not right now because you're watching us and we want you.
It's definitely stay.
Right,
and you shouldn't be working anyway. It's late.
Late.
But yeah, having a specific time, like that was one of the things that was brought out at the Global Podfest, right? Wasn't that like a few weeks ago? The free one. Well, sorry, I did the free one. But yeah, like a specific time for social media. So if you start your day, you know, and like maybe 10 o'clock is your time. You start your day at 8 o'clock, and then at 10, you know, from 10 to 10:30 or 10 to 11 or however much time you want to give yourself, that's your social media time. And then after that, you're done. No more.
One thing go ahead, Carrie. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, as you get busier, as you grow your business, that's really important. Like having that social media time, because I can have Facebook and there are times where it's like, ding, 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 ding. Like people are messaging me. I've got so I have to like schedule when I'm going to check my email, when I'm going to check my Facebook messages, my Instagram, like all those different places of connection, because I know personally I can only focus on one task and one task at a time and do something well. So I have to like really cut, and there's sometimes I don't say anything. That's why sometimes I get really talkative, because I just like spend all day listening, and then and then I get to you guys and it's like but really that's, I think that's really important to kind of remember that you're setting these habits now so that when your time is really there's a lot of demands on it, a lot more demands on it as your business grows. You want to have those habits already, so you're not feeling like you're being pulled in 500 different directions at one time.
One of the things that, actually two of the things that I've done, one, I just recently learned that the Facebook app, at least on iOS, has the ability to set times when it's not available, and it will actually cover up the screen. And you have to tell it, I want to deviate from my plan. So I implemented that so that I don't get all those notifications and stuff. And it's kind of funny that like the world's most addictive software is now giving you the ability to control your addiction, but but whatever that is. The other thing I do is I put my phone on do not disturb from like 10:30 until 6:30 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
And my most productive time is between 5:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. So what happens then is I don't get any notifications during that time. So I just don't get that distraction. That's just what I've done. And I was super happy to find that I could tell Facebook where to stick it for some limited points of time. One of the things I did want to talk about, though, because you kind of breezed by this, but you said you've got a podcast launch coming up. Would you tell us a little bit about what you've got going on with that?
Yeah, so this goes back to my conversations with my Uber riders, right? And so I've had some really, really interesting discussions with people. So the way this works is, let's say, Brian, I pick you up. We have a really great conversation in the car. Most of these trips are short, right? So you're not going to get a whole lot of dialogue out of a, 5 to 7 mile trip. But what I do is, I hand up my business card and say, hey, listen, I really enjoyed our conversation. And if you're interested in, sort of carrying this dialogue on, here's what I do. And then I give them a short, little overview of what I've done with some other people. And then they reach out to me and we'll exchange email information, and I'll reach out to them or whoever reaches out first. Excuse me, my mouth is really dry. And so after that, this is pre-COVID now, we would meet at the library because we've got some really awesome libraries here, and a few of them have sound booths. And so I can just go to the library for free, and I'm already in a sound treated room. Awesome. Now, we'll sit down and talk for about an hour. The first half of the show, I really like to just sort of draw the person out and introduce them and what their life experiences have been about. And then the second half of the show is, really just sort of promoting them or their business, whatever it is that they're sort of into. Now, I've had a gentleman who suffers from depression and bipolar open up to me, a guy who started a business. It's called Play and Exploration, helping companies to get back to their creative side. I've talked with some educators. Some really interesting conversations I've had with people. And so, I condensed this into 45 minutes to an hour conversation, and I'm launching that October 1st.
What's the show name, and where can we find it so we can send people there?
I guess that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Right. The name of the show is DriveTimeConversations.
Nice.
And it's going to be on, I'm going to hit all the platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. But yeah, DriveTimeConversations. That's the name of it.
Is there a mailing list we could sign up to or anything like that? Or I'm putting some pressure on you right now.
That's something I need to. We'll say. Oh man, you got. So no, I don't.
No.
Like the way we've been releasing these though recently, by the time you're listening to this, it may already be live and you can just go subscribe.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And everybody knows how to Google, right? I mean, come on. You're podcast editors. Let's go. Get Googling.
Like that.
Man.
Your Google cannot be broken. All right.
You can put that on your t-shirts, Carrie.
What?
Your Google can't be broken.
Thank you. I'll
make it
add that to my list.
I've got to add that to my the top of the list for what to do for next week.
Yeah,
get your mailing list and yeah.
And I asked that, but I am also the absolute worst at my newsletter. Like even for the course, I am struggling to keep it up to date. Like keep newsletters in the queue. So if anybody wants to do a newsletter challenge with me, I'd be happy to do that.
Maybe you should set it up for us.
Let me just add that to my list right here.
I mean, you've got a team.
Get out my notebook.
So, Michael, we've talked about most of the stuff that I think you had on there, but I'm wondering, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, or maybe any questions you have for us?
Wow. Man, the pressure's on. I just, in the moment, the mind
Brian's
just says,
doing his job, man.
My mind said, psych. Like I had questions. My mind was like, nah, not right now.
So that's no. That's a hard no. That'll be a hard no, Brian.
I'm like, man.
No. Well, I really think your homework is though to think, and I'm assigning homework now because that's what we do now.
That's how Carrie rolls.
Yeah, I just assign homework. I think your homework really is to think about that values, vision, and mission that you have. I think that going through that journey would be really helpful for you. And I think like that exercise, like every morning, think about who are you at your core, and like keep it like 5 words that would describe what motivates you, what is important to you, what makes you act. That's kind of the same thing as motivate, but like that thing. And then, ask the people in your lives, like 5 words they would use to describe you. Which is one thing I did that was really helpful because that gets you thinking like where are your roots, in this world essentially. And then what do you want to do with that? Right? What's the vision for that and how are you going to get there? So just like a morning exercise, just, 5-10 minutes, think about that. And it'll come.
In the comments, Chris says that you can tell us that your lawyers told you not to answer that question. That's a great answer, Chris. Thank you.
So let me go ahead and say that so they can, when they edit this, they can put it in 3, 2, 1. Well, my lawyers advised me that I can't answer that question, Brian.
There we go.
Great. We like to have some fun on this show. You mentioned so one of the things I just was wondering is I think that let's do Chris's question. What if your roots aren't of this world?
Well, I didn't specify which world they had to be in. So like it's totally up to you. I mean, if you think that you're an alien, great. What kind of alien are you, right? What? Why'd you come to this planet? I don't know, but
I know I'm not supposed to ask yes or no questions, but I'm going to do it anyway. The show that you're launching, DriveTimeConversations, does that fit into your business?
Yes.
How?
Yes. So that's going to be under the umbrella of MiTi Productions. And so, So yes.
Yeah, well, it's also a demonstration of what you can do, right? What you can do with the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think there's any lead generation with that also?
With the drive time conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I like, what's also been helpful too with doing the Uber, when you talk about lead generation, is some of the conversations that I've had with people. I've been handing out my business cards to different people who own businesses that are, because on the weekends, you're getting, well, pre-COVID, you're getting all kinds of folks. And a lot of business owners, want to get out and just release, right? So it's an opportunity to self-promote. But I take advantage of the opportunity to do that when it's reasonable. I don't go out of control with it.
So I just wanted to say one more thing. Oops, I'm going to try that again. I'm going to say one more thing about your podcast being a lead generator. You can sponsor your own podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So that your podcast is brought to you by MiTi Productions, and then, whatever your tagline is, and you can do a mid-roll with that. And do you like the way I sound? Do you like what we're doing here? I can do that for you too, or whatever. So that's,
I like that. Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's, something I didn't do for my podcast, but I think everybody else should do it. We don't do it for this podcast.
Oh, so Michael, one more question that we like to ask all of our guests is, how did you find your first client? The very first one.
It's funny because when I first looked at that question, I was telling Brian that what popped in my head was that I was my first client. When I decided to start this podcast, the process of creating the show, the process of you have to be watching the Facebook video right now.
Not a live stream.
Oh,
That's awesome.
It's so cat
That's
butt,
awesome.
right?
Right, exactly.
It's not music.
And now we have to leave it in.
Yeah.
I'm going to mark it for a cut.
Cat was liking what I was saying, apparently.
Sorry.
Showed me his butt. So anyway, the creative process, the buying of equipment, the engineering, producing, and editing of the show, those are all things that I do for clients. I had to learn that for myself. So, I consider myself to be my first client because I've got that experience of, creating, hosting, producing, and engineering my own podcast.
I also think that helps you understand your client at a deeper level, right? Because you've gone through the process and now you have a better, it's one thing to say, oh, we'll record in a great environment, use good mic. It's another thing to actually experience what that's like in application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even we get stuff wrong, right? So having that gives you a little bit more patience and understanding with your client and helps you serve them better, I think.
That made me think of something, and I'd like to get, your thoughts on this. The process of me, creating these different episodes, I've gone through a lot of different equipment in that time. So I started out with a Tascam DR40 and a Samsung Q2U. That was what I used for my very first podcast. And the library had they have condenser mics. And I had no idea the difference between a dynamic and condenser mic at the time. And so with my first guest, he's on a condenser and I'm on a dynamic. Then I moved to I had an interface, a Behringer 404 HD interface. And then I moved to the Rodecaster Pro. And so what I was thinking, and this is what I want your guys' input on, is because I'm just interested in audio, I was thinking about somehow just sort of tying in, whether, maybe like at the end of an episode, that these were the devices that the show was recorded on, and sort of, putting out there that, look, you don't have to have high-end equipment to get started, but look, this is what this show was recorded on, and, how did it sound to you? This show was recorded on an interface, and this one was on the Rodecaster Pro. I don't know, but just something that crossed my mind. What do you guys?
I like it. I wish some of my clients would tell me what they're recording on without me having to ask them, what are you recording on? Because I have a studio here in Lexington, Kentucky, and I had some people record there recently, and I edited their show again. I'm like, this sounds so much better than the other recordings because it's in the sound treated room with a Rodecaster Pro, and oh my goodness. So I think it would be interesting to hear that. I mean, maybe the average person wouldn't care, but I'd care. I think it's cool. Yeah, I mean, even just like in an end roll credits, and thank you for listening. And today's episode was recorded on blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did so with my show, Just Podcasting. I actually put that in the show notes. I thought about doing it in the audio, but frankly, I was just lazy and I didn't. So I put it in the show notes, and I put my thoughts about the particular equipment. I put what I struggled with that episode, and putting it together. So if you ever read the show notes to that, show, they're kind of fun. I mean, I have, put a lot of like technical notes in it. So including the geese phenomenon that we have here, that you can't get out of recordings.
So I would think that if you think your audience will care, then go ahead and put it in. If you think they won't care, then maybe not. Like if it distracts from the core message of what your guests are sharing and the core purpose of that show, then I'm not 100% sold on it. But that's just me.
So I'm going to be devil's advocate. I don't care. I want it. It's your show. Do what you want. I don't care. Like the people who listen that far, like I would maybe put it after like maybe your outro as like a fun thing for like your super fans, right? Because there's going to be a percentage of them who are going to want to emulate you, right? Or be inspired to podcast, and
here's your cross promotion stuff too. This was recorded by MiTi Productions using a blah, blah, blah.
Right. And then who knows, maybe some of these audio companies will like what you're doing. When you nicely tag them on social media saying, shout out to so-and-so on the latest episode of Drive Time because this is what we used. Maybe they'd be like, hey, this is cool what you're doing. We'd like to give you some money for that. Or free equipment for that. Or something.
You guys are so smart.
I'm smart for other people, right? I don't do this for
I like it.
Consistent theme here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been great. Unfortunately, we're going to have to draw it to a close because this old guy has to go to bed soon. But it's been great having you on here. I do want to mention that we've talked about business plans, and our next guest is actually going to be Mark Deal, who put together the Podcast Editor Academy training for business models. We're actually going to be recording on a Tuesday, it's September 22nd. That's odd for us because we're normally on a Thursday. Couldn't work out the dates, so that's what it is. So if you have questions about business models or business plans, you're going to want to add that one to your calendars. And if somebody's interested to be a guest on the show, Carrie or Jennifer, who wants to tell them how to be a guest?
I'll tell them how to be a guest. If you would like to be a guest on the Podcast Editor Mastermind, please go to podcasteditormastermind.com and click Be a Guest. We had someone message us via Facebook earlier wanting to be a guest, and we told them to go to podcasteditormastermind.com/be a guest. So that's what you need to do.
Yeah. And I don't know how to work Facebook Messenger really well for pages. So, definitely use that form because I know if Jennifer hadn't have seen it, I would have never.
Brian saw it too.
I saw it and I was like, I'm gonna mess this up. So let's not deviate from the process. We're gonna get it all jacked up. So
please don't confuse us.
Michael, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. For those watching or listening, if you want to find him MiTi5audio.com. That's MITI, the number 5audio.com is the website. You can find him at Twitter at Mighty_audio. So, Michael, thank you so much. And to close out the show, I'm Brian Ensminger. You can find me at toptieraudio.com.
I'm Carrie Caulfield. Eric, you can find me at yayapodcasting.com. You can find my great teas at yayapodcasting.com/shop.
I'm Jennifer Longworth of bourbonbarrelpodcasting.com or KY Podcasting. Not appearing in this episode is Daniel Abendroth. He is out partying.
And this is where we have our awkward pause, right?
Right. Yeah. We're not even going to tell you his
even get
link.
an invitation to the party.
Yeah.
Roth. Oh, I forgot his link.
Rothmedia. Wait. Rothmedia.audio.
Yes, rothmedia.audio.
Rothmedia.audio. Sorry,
Thanks,
Daniel.
everybody, for sticking with us till the crazy end.
Yeah, and thank you, Chris, for hanging out with us
Yeah.
in the chat.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.